Hey, what's going on, guys? So check this out. It's my first ever door. It's kind of exciting for those that aren't in the trade, but my basement project is really coming to an end finally. It's been 2 years. I took a lot of time off. I also got completely screwed by a contractor that took off with a little more than $4,000, so I've learned a lot of lessons on this build. But I'm really excited because I just finished this guy, and that means I have 2 more doors to do. So I'm going to show you how I put these doors together. Unfortunately, with this build, I did a lot of things and then learned the hard way, as most of us do. And I did so much research and I did a lot of homework, and you're still going to come into problems. So one of the things that I did is I built this wall here, and it's underneath a steel beam for this house. And as soon as I did that, I thought it was a great idea. We all thought it was a great idea. It was a nice way to just separate the house, but finding a door is pretty much insane. So I finally got the subfloor in, and that means the last thing I need is trim, doors, and then carpet. So what I'm doing right now is I've got these doors. They're just 30-inch doors that I'm going to use down here. We figured if my stair door was only 30 inches, there's no need to make any of these bigger, because if it doesn't fit through the basement stair door, it ain't going to fit down here either. So I'm going to show you how I cut this solid 6-panel oak door down and made a little bit of adjustment to get it where it is. I also built the door jambs, the door stops, cut in all the handles, did all those measurements. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at what we're going to work with. Alright, so here we have my door frame, and basically, going across, I've got about 31.5 inches. I really pushed this one. I really should have built it at about 32 inches. You want to leave yourself about 2 extra inches of what the door is going to be. So this one's going to be right on the money, hopefully. The other thing is, like I said, I built this underneath a beam, and I also had to lay self-leveling concrete and the subfloor. So with that said, I'm only at 76.25 inch height. So your typical 30-inch door is an 80-inch height. So we're going to have to definitely take some off the top and the bottom, try to keep it as proportionate looking as we can, and then measure up the door handle. On this door handle, I actually got away with putting it at 35 inches instead of 36, just because it looked better in the door, and no one's really going to notice a 1-inch difference between height on the door handle. So with this, we're going to build our jam. So our jam, I actually bought some pre-made door jam sections. So they're going to be right there at 4 9/16 when you have a 2x4 and 2 layers of 1/2-inch drywall. So let's go ahead, take a look at the doors, and see what we got to do to cut those down. So I have 2 doors here, 1 door for each room. I bought all 3 doors the same. They're just solid core oak doors, 6-panel. I wanted something that is going to look nice. The other nice thing is that when this basement is done, my wife and I plan on replacing all the doors upstairs in the house with the exact same matching doors. And these doors come in both this 30x80 slab, so there's no holes or no hinges. But I can also get these as pre-hung doors, so when I get upstairs and I work on that project, I'll be able to just buy it off the shelf, ready to go, and I don't have to do any of the work that I'm about to do now. So basically, I did a bunch of measurements, and you won't be really able to see what I'm working with, but I got 76.5 inch height is basically where I was sitting. That door is a little bit shorter, 76.25, so I'll make it a small adjustment. But I took off a little bit for the top and the bottom, 1/4 inch and 5/8 for the bottom. It gives me 75 and 5/8. Basically, if I take that away from 80, you know, I've got about 4 3/8 that I have to remove. So I did 2 3/16 on both the top and the bottom. So over here, I went ahead and measured out 2 3/16. I drew a nice straight line across it. And then what I've done is I've taken just a piece of trim and I measured it out 1.5 inches from that line, and that's going to be my guide for my circular saw. And I'm just going to use a straight circular saw, and I'm going to cut this off. On this side, I did the exact same thing, except for I know now that I just did this door, it's not going to clear the carpet. My measurement is pretty much spot on, but I did not leave enough room for the carpet. So I'm actually going to take this line and I'm going to bring it up about 1/2 inch. That should give me enough clearance for the foam and then the carpet. At least I hope. If not, I might have to take it off and trim it again. Unfortunately, I just don't have the carpet in yet to know. But I need to get the door jambs in first and all the trim before they lay the carpet. So 2.5 doesn't have another. So we're going to go ahead and let's get started and let's get this door built. So that's the inside of a solid core door. It's all particle board. And I'll show you what I'm going to do after I take a minute and clean some of this up with shop vac. This area here is pretty rough. What I'm going to do is you can see where the biscuits were and you can see all this exposed. I'm going to take my random orbital sander and I'm just going to lightly sand this smooth. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to then take wood glue and I'm going to mix in some of that sawdust that I just collected, and we're going to brush wood glue on here and let it dry overnight, and that's going to help keep this a lot more solid. Because basically if this was a hollow door, I'd have to take out the piece and stick it back in there to make this solid, but since this is a solid core door and it's got all, you know, this core material in here, I'm going to go ahead and just sand it, and then we're going to fill it full of wood glue. Just going to take our brush and start brushing on the glue. Alright, so we're going to build our jamb, and basically I'm just going to measure this door out, and I've got 29 and looks like 3/4 of an inch. And what I really want to do is I want to add 3/16 to my measurement for the width. And by adding those 3/16, that's going to give it a little bit of play for the hinge and for the door to be open. So here I have the top piece that I'm going to cut down. My door jambs, if you see for the factory, they're already cut out here. You have 1/4 inch that I have to add on both sides. So basically I have to add a 1/2 inch length to my measurement. So I was at 29 and 15/16. So basically if I think of it as 30, I can go to 30.5, and then I'm going to bring it back down 1/16. So I'm going to bring it right there, right? And from there, I'm going to take my speed square and mark that out. Now I already marked out the length on my side pieces, so I'm going to go ahead, cut this down, and then we're going to glue and nail it together. Alright, so before I glue anything or screw it down or anything, I like to just see how it fits first, obviously. And I was right when I said this is going to be super tight, because there is like no gap, very little gap right here on this wall. I should have made this door a little bit wider, so I'm getting really close to not making it fit. So, woo! If I take out my tape measure and I measure this, I am right at 29 7/8. So it's a little bit less than what I was hoping for, but like I said, this fit is super tight. So another little thing that I did, a little trick, is when I measured that top, I cut a piece of scrap that's the exact same length, barely fits in there, and then I can use this as I'm coming down and trying to set all of my widths. So I'm going to put this on the floor for now, so I know that now this floor is at the exact same height, or width, I mean, as, you know, the top of this door. So I also don't have much room height-wise, so this should fit really, really tight, and hopefully it'll work on the first try. So we're going to go ahead, I'm going to take this back apart, and we're going to glue it together now, and then I'm going to try to set it in here as a whole piece. So I laid the door on the ground just as a reference, so that if I hold this up, I can see that there's enough play in there for the door hinges and whatnot. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go ahead now, and I'm going to put this together. So I'm going to keep my square out, because what we're going to want to do is just take some wood glue, and I'm just going to put a little bit here. I'm just going to smooth that out and try and get it into the crevice. And then a little bit on this side. Nice 90. Tops are even. And I'm just going to put a nail in it. And the bottom. Make sure that's nice and even still too. Put another nail. Do the exact same thing for the other side. So my door frame is in now, and what I want to do is I want to start with the side that's going to take all the weight, the side that the hinge and the door are going to swing on. So since this door is going to open this way, because the room opens this direction, right? I want to focus my attention on this side first. Okay, so basically, I want to make sure that I can get this side nice and plumb and get it right with the wall, because it's going to take a lot of the weight, okay? But first what I'm going to do is I'm using two different levels. I'm going to use a taller 4-foot level and a smaller 2-foot level. And I'm going to go around and I'm going to check to see how it looks right off the bat. And actually, right off the bat, I mean, this ceiling is, the top is pretty much kind of right on. And this side could be a little desired, but again, we're going to start with this side anyways. The other thing that I want to do is make sure, which I did not do yet, is I'm going to place my floorboard back in. And again, this will help keep the widths the exact same. Alright. I'm also trying to get this as centered as I can into the wall, obviously. You want to keep it flush so that your trim will sit nice and even too. So, alright, with that said, We're going to start with this side. So, alright, so I got the frames all nailed in. Here's a little trick. So I take these drywall shims and I add as many as I need to get this door, you know, up to the top. There still is a gap, and I can fit, you know, if I take one of these shims, I can still fit a shim up in here to make sure that I have enough room. But basically what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to measure, I'm going to mark out both on the door and on the frame together, the jam together, of where I'm going to put my hinges. So this one's going to be 7 inches down, this one will be 10 inches up off the ground, and this one should be in the middle of them. Since I've already done it with the other door, I already know what my measurements are, so I'm actually going to measure to the very center. So I know I want 9 inches in that center of the hinge, 62 and a half from the top down, and 35 3/4 for the middle. So, you know, your measurements will be different than mine probably, because, you know, this door's trimmed down pretty good. But basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to start here, and like I said, I'm just going to drop this. Another small tip is I actually wrote hinge on this side of the door, and after I made my marks, I drew kind of a curved circle so I know which direction the hinge needs to go, and then I actually put a little arrow there too, so that way I know where to make my hinge directions. So let's go cut some hinges. So I bought this Hinge Mortise Kit, and basically you tell it, you know, that this is a 1 3/8 door. You know, it says wall. Oh, sorry, I can't get to focus there, but anyway, so you put this on there, and you do the same on this side, and then I just screw it on, and it gives me the pattern that I'm going to use my router for, and I'm going to do it all the way down. And what you can see is I drew that line across, and that line is going to draw straight with this other center line. That's going to help me make sure that I get these nice and even. So I'll grab my new router here, set the depth, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to cut out these hinges. So I have my door just leaning right now, but I haven't drilled these holes yet. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start from the top and get this one in, and get my middle line. See that? They're going to sit right in there perfect. And then I'll work on the bottom. And pull this up. Okay, moment of truth. Ooh, she just clears. Look at this. Now, I'm trying to get this door specifically as tight as I can, because this is the music room, so I'm trying to keep as much sound in here as I can. But look at that. You don't get much tighter than that. So standard door handle height is actually 36 inches from the ground. If I measure up 36 inches, it puts it up here. And it looks kind of silly because it's a panel door. So, but if I made it even, that's only 34 inches. And 2 inches lower doesn't seem like much, but when you're reaching for a handle, you can feel a big difference. So what I've been doing is I've been making mine 35 inches. I'm just kind of splitting that difference. So I'm just going to make a tally right at 35.
and that's where I'm going to put my handle. So it doesn't look too out of place, but it's not too much lower from what it needs to be. So let's go ahead and let's do some door handle. So I bought one of those Ryobi door hinge kits, and these are nice because you can adjust it for the thickness of the door, and you can adjust it for the length of the handle. Now for me, the kits that I bought, the handles, they're basically universal. They'll use both lengths. So I've got mine set up at 2 3/4 for the depth, and the standard inch and 3/8 for the door. The nice thing too is this also shows us, once I get it on there, it also shows us where our strike plate's going to be. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to align this center bar up with the mark that I made here. So there's my center, right there at 35 inches. And once that's done, there's a spot in the center here. Oops, probably not. There's a spot in the center here to put some screws. So I'm gonna grab my screw, grab my gun. And I'm gonna put that in. Okay, I got this marked out. Comes with a brad point tip on this and a hole saw. This hole saw is not very good, to be honest, but it'll be good enough. So we're going to drill through until I see it come through the other side, and then we're going to go to the other side and come back across. Woo, finally! Alright, then I'm going to switch this out. Alright, so now I got this spade, and what's really nice is it's actually got a little bit of a guide to get it going, get it in there, keep it nice and straight. So put this on there. There it is. So that's basically that right there. Now what I'm going to do is, before I take this off, I'm going to use this to mark on my door where this is going to fall. So I'm not actually going to do any cutting here, but I am going to mark top and bottom. And that's it. Alright, so I'm going to take a different hole saw now, and we are basically going to cut open a hole for the door handle. And there you go. Now we place the screws in, cut that down, and your door has a door latch. Alright, so the last thing that we have to do with our door is we have to install the stops all around. So I'm going to go ahead and just remeasure, and we're at 29 7/8. So we're going to go cut the first stop at 29 7/8. Let's go. I've got the door shut, and I got it where I want it. Okay, and I'm gonna lay this door stop in so it's right against where it needs to be. That way, when this hits, it's got a little bit of give, but not a lot. See if you want that. There we go. All right. And what I'm gonna do
it's nice and flush with the door. And we're gonna put one in there. That's it. Okay. I'll go ahead, I'll open this. And now let's see. Here we are. Alright.
Hi, Daddy.
So then, now what we're going to do is we're going to measure our lengthwise, and we're going to cut 2 pieces for the sides. Now that I got the door stops, top and sides, they're all nailed in nice and secure, that's pretty much it. This door is done. And that's exciting. Now I'm pretty much down to just putting on the trim around the door, putting the trim in around the floor, and getting some carpet in here. And that's exciting. But this was my little video on how I cut down these doors and installed them, you know, from start to finish. So any questions, just let me know. Things that I could have done better, things that I could have done worse, you know, let me know in the comments too. So, with that said,